Our guest in the studio, we're very proud to have the county manager here, Mr. George Wood, is with us today. And how are you?
I'm fine, Wayne.
Great
Good
to have
see
you with us here.
Thank you.
Well, I guess it was last year or so, several months ago, three major elements here in the county. That would be the city and Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, and we here in the county at Wayne County government all got together and decided to build an ag center, and doggone it, it's going to be a nice building, nice center, because it's starting to really take shape. Ground has not been broken yet, but there's a lot of things that's been going. Can you walk us through the process of what has happened from the time that the agreement was made that the city would do that part and the county would do that part and Seymour Johnson somehow was involved?
Sure.
How did that happen?
Well, the way it happened is there's been discussion about an ag center for some time, and a lot of that has to do with our agricultural offices are somewhat scattered and they're inadequate now. We've outgrown them. And so what a lot of counties are doing is creating an agricultural center and putting all of those offices together so that as our agricultural folks come in, whatever they need, whether it's USDA, North Carolina Cooperative Extension, Soil and Water Conservation, it's all in one location. And so the whole idea is to better serve those folks in our agricultural community. And as you know, Wayne, the biggest industry in Wayne County is agriculture. And then Seymour Johnson is the second largest employer in this county. So what had happened is the Air Force has a program called P4, which is public-private partnerships. And so they have been working with the city, and I think have come up with an outstanding project there. They're going to lease the city, I believe it's 60 acres adjacent to the city limits. It's near one of our schools, and what they're going to do is develop a soccer complex there.
Wow. And
that will be a big tourist draw because, as you probably know, soccer has taken off tremendously, and these tournaments are really a great tourism because these the parents go with the teams, and they do a lot of traveling around on these special teams and that sort of thing. So that will be a big shot in the arm for our tourism industry, and that's how Seymour Johnson plays into it. Ultimately, what happened is we were developing the Ag Center. It was going to have a much smaller footprint for an assembly area. And then we were looking at locations. We originally started out on Old Smithfield Road. It was a beautiful location, but the more we got into it, Wayne, we were going to have problems with extension of utilities, water, sewer, fiber optic cable, and then the problem was it's only a 2-lane road. Plus, getting to it, if you're from out of town, was a little bit of a struggle.
now this is the area right across from O'Berry Center.
That's correct.
Right across the street.
That's correct. And we were working with the state government, Department of Agriculture, and they were looking at basically giving us some of that property. Again, when you look out on the vista, it was gorgeous.
Yes, beautiful.
But when we started looking at all those other issues, and every bit of the things I mentioned drives the development cost up. So the more we looked at it, we knew that the city had 18 acres on Wayne Memorial Drive, which is adjacent to the community college.
Right.
And it fronts on another 19 acres that the community college owns because the county had purchased that property for them. That's for future expansion of the college. So when we looked at all of that, you're talking about access off of a 5-lane highway. We checked all the utilities. You've got water right in the right-of-way. You've got the sewer is adjacent to it. Of course, the college has fiber optic cable, so it's there in the vicinity.
Right.
It's a short run to get that over there.
Right.
The other thing is it's 9/10 of a mile from what will be the new US 70 bypass coming into town. So in terms of directing people who are from out of town to it, you simply put a sign up there for this exit, and they can't miss it. You make one turn, get on that road, get on Wayne Memorial Drive, drive 9/10 of a mile, and you can't miss the building.
Can't miss it. Oh.
So we looked at all of that, and at that point, Chairman Aycock and I looked at it, and Bill Pate, who's the chairman of our Ag Center Committee, and we all said we need to sit down with the city. And the other reason we need to sit down with the city is it's absolutely ludicrous to say that the county would have a facility and then the city comes along later and wants to do a facility. A community this size with 125,000 people, we need to have one convention center. And then it needs to be done right.
That's right.
So that it's the right size. So we got a meeting with, I think the mayor had delegated that to the vice mayor then, now Mayor Chuck Allen, met with Chuck and the city manager Scott Stevens. Had a very good meeting, and that kind of was the genesis of let's talk about where can we go from here. And so we had a number of other commissioners involved. In fact, Joe Daughtery was an integral part of that, and of course now he's the chairman of the commission. So between Bill and Joe and Wayne and Scott and Chuck and myself, we were able to work through a lot of the issues, came up with a joint agreement, which, as you know, was announced. And one of the issues was we needed to have some additional funding. So we were trying to get the 1% hotel motel tax, or some people call it room occupancy tax. We've been successful finally in getting that through. We worked through as part of that agreement how we were going to split their 5% that Goldsboro has plus our 1%. So all that's in the agreement. They are providing 12 of the 18 acres to the county at no cost, and that's worth about $2 to $3 million right there. Part of the agreement is we're going to loan them $3 million towards the construction of the soccer fields. And of course, they'll repay us with an interest rate there. It's a far better rate than we're making on investing our money now, but it's less than what it would cost the city to go out and borrow the money.
Right.
So it was a good deal for both parties. And so we've worked all of that out. And that's pretty much where we were on the agreement. Once we had the agreement, once we had the state legislation on the 1%, then the legislation required that we create the Wayne County Tourism Development Authority. We have done that by resolution. Included with that was naming the members. We have tried to match up our membership with the Goldsboro Tourism Council. Theirs is not a separate authority, but it's a council, a committee appointed by the city. And the reason being is that while by law we had to have two separate bodies, we really want them to work together, because what their role is to develop the marketing strategy on this. And so they will basically be the marketing arm for this facility.
I just want to say one thing very quickly before you go any further. I certainly hope that the general public understands the complexity of what you just said, of how this was achieved to get all of these elements together, the city, the county, the base, and everybody else. This was not an easy task. It took a long time, and there was a lot of agreement, there was a lot of compromise, there was just a lot to put this thing together. And I think we should really be proud of everybody who did sit down at the table and make this happen. This is fantastic.
Well, it was a complicated negotiation,
Very complicated.
And I give credit to everybody there. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Everybody came to the table in a spirit of cooperation
Exactly.
and working through it, because in a good negotiation, nobody gets everything they want.
No.
And so
That's right.
I think it worked out very well. I can't say enough for the representatives from the city.
Yeah.
I think they've been very reasonable. We think we've been reasonable, so we were able to bring it to fruition. So having done all of that, once we had all of that taken care of, the next phase obviously was we needed to get a designer. So we went through, by state law, we have to do a request for qualifications on architects. Did that. The county, the agreement is this will be a county facility. So the city's donating the land to us, it's a county facility. But we made it very clear, even though it's not part of the agreement, we made it very clear we wanted city participation. So the city, we had a committee that met with the architect and went through everything with them. And the city had 3 representatives on that, and that's the city manager, Chuck Allen, and also council member Gene Aycock.
Right.
And then we had Joe Daughtery, Wayne Aycock, and Bill Pate, and myself. So we have had a good spirit of cooperation, not only in putting the project together, but everybody's had input into it. When we switched the locations, we had 2 entities that we thought were going to go into the building that it no longer made sense for. One was the Center for Environmental Farming, because their location is near Smithfield.
Right.
And the other was the administrative offices for the state with their research farm. So when those 2 dropped out, that freed up quite a bit of square footage for us. Well, we looked at that and we said, you know, this assembly area, the convention center part, really needs to be bigger. And in fact, we looked at a study that the city had done in previous years about what did that consultant think it needed to be. And while we didn't quite reach that size, we're pretty close. And the other thing is we were looking at places that we'll be competing with. And New Bern's is 12,000 square feet of assembly area or convention area. Ours will be 14,000. And so with that, we can have a sit-down dinner for about 840 people. Or we can reconfigure it and have theater-style seating, and we can handle 1,550 people.
Wow, that's great.
So we looked at all of that. We made some trips to Greenville, North Carolina, and also to New Bern with the architect, met with their key staff people, the directors of each one of those facilities, who were very gracious in sharing their time with us. You know, because part of what you want to know is, what do you like about your facility? What would you do differently?
Right.
And they were very forthright with us. I can't say enough for Craven County. County manager there has shared their financial information with me as to what the operating cost would be, and their staffing and all of that. So we feel like we've done a lot of due diligence on this. And so now, as I said, we started the process of getting the architect, went through that. We selected HH Architecture out of Raleigh. And it's a female-owned business. I can't say enough for the architect, Kristen Hess. I think she has been fantastic to work with.
Right.
I've worked with a lot of architects in my career, and sometimes they pay you lip service as far as listening to it, but then they designed a building they want.
Yeah, yeah.
And we were very upfront with her that we wanted the building we wanted.
Right.
And she has listened very well, her staff has listened very well, and we've got a product that we're extremely proud of, and I think the community will be.
I was very impressed with her when she spoke at, where was it, Lane Tree?
Yes.
At Lane Tree, and explained the steps in the process. And it was interesting, and I like what you said, that she listened to what you had to say about
That's right.
what the county wanted or needed in a building, in a facility like that.
That's right. And one of
Impressive.
the things I give her very high marks for too, you know, from an architect standpoint, it's a lot easier to deal with a private business where one guy makes the calls. So she's got to satisfy one person. We had a 7-member committee representing even more people, because we also had to bring that back to the Board of Commissioners and make sure they were all happy with it. So when you've got a group like that, it takes somebody who can really handle the group dynamics of that, and on every single key issue, work through that, listen to everybody's concerns, and bring us to a decision.
Right.
You know, that we could all live with.
I give her a little bit of a politician for that.
Absolutely.
Too. Okay,
very diplomatic. I give her high marks, and as somebody who deals with an elected board, I know how difficult that can be sometimes. So I gave her very high marks on that. But we were extremely pleased. When we started, our board, Wayne, wasn't sure if they wanted to go design build or the traditional design, have the architect design it, take bids, and then a contractor builds it. So there's a provision in state law called Design, Build, Bridge, that allows us to hire an architect, and they design up to 35%. And what that basically means is you're going to get what the exterior is going to look like, you're going to get the floor plan, and in this case, the criteria that you would use as far as the materials and things like that. Then that left us with the option to go either way at that point. Well, we had a good experience with Kristen. Everybody was very pleased with the product we got. And so our board faced two decisions, and we took care of both of those at one meeting. The first decision was, do we want to continue with this architect and have her, in other words, we would renegotiate the contract and it'd be 100% design.
Right.
Or do we go design build? And that's a case where you go out and you do an RFQ, you select a construction company that's going to build it for you, but they bring their architect to the table to finish it.
Okay, what's an RFQ? Help me out here.
Request for qualifications.
I knew that. Go ahead.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Typical government, too
Well,
much
I know,
jargon.
I know, a lot of letters.
Anyway, we made the decision, or the board did, and I recommended to them that we extend her contract and go with 100% design. That was passed unanimously. Like I said, everybody was very pleased with that job. So we very quickly renegotiated that contract. That's in place, and she's off and running, finishing the design now. The second issue we had was, how do you want to build it? And the issue there was, do you want to go with the traditional, have the architect design it, take bids on it, and then award a contract, and then they build it? Or do you want to go with CMAR? And what that is Construction Manager at Risk.
I knew that.
Okay. And that is a relatively new process, but essentially the difference is that while the architect is designing the building, you also hire a construction manager at risk. They are going to bid out all of the subcontractor work. They function as the general contractor because they coordinate all the subcontractors. Right. But the difference is they're involved with the architect on the front end, and they're giving her feedback on value engineering the building. In other words, they maybe come up with better ways of talking about how you would construct it. They may come up with substitute materials, recommendations on that they think would work just as well, but are cheaper. So obviously what we're trying to do there is drive the cost of the building down while keeping the quality up. And so we decided to go that way.
It's much more attractive, it seems.
Right.
The CMAR.
It is. And so we decided to do that. We've done that. Yeah. And where we're at now is we put out another RFQ for the construction manager at risk. That goes out to general contractors. And a lot of them have experience with this construction manager at risk. So those were due in Tuesday of this week, and we got 5 responses. Said there's some very good firms. We have the chairman has already appointed a selection committee. That committee will meet next Wednesday.
Okay.
And so we have sent out all 5 RFQ responses to this committee with a grading instrument that we came up with, and they're to fill that out, come to that meeting, and then we will narrow that down probably from 5 to 2 to 3. Then we'll go through an interview process with them, reference checks, things like that, and then that committee will then make a recommendation to the full Board of Commissioners on who we want to hire.
Okay, now that will be Wednesday the 20th.
Right.
Right.
So
of January.
Right. So what we're hoping is that we can then handle the interviews, and by the February 2nd meeting, have a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. If that goes through, and we feel very confident that it will, once that happens is essentially we schedule on the agenda for the Board of Commissioners to authorize me as the manager to negotiate a contract with the construction manager at risk. And part of my research on this was to study the construction manager at risk process and what are reasonable fees and all that. And we've done all of that.
You have?
Oh, yeah. And so, and
Where
that's,
did you find time for that?
well, it's been an interesting
I bet
process.
it, you never have anything to do, or nothing
No,
to do, right,
no.
right.
But we did. We met with, I can't say enough, we met with UNC Chapel Hill, the director of all of their construction
Wow.
on the main campus. And they've done a lot of CMAR work.
Have they?
He agreed to come down, meet with several of us, and went through how they do it and their fee structure and all of that. Following that, part of his presentation was he gave us a PowerPoint that the Wake County School System had given for their board, and they've done over 25 schools using this method.
Wow.
So when I saw that, I made a mental note of that. I called the superintendent of education in Wake County.
Right.
He was very gracious about providing me with the contact on his staff. And that gentleman is a professional engineer. He handles all their construction. And can't say enough for him. I spent well over an hour on the phone with him.
Wow.
He faxed in or scanned in some materials for me, walked me through it. And I feel like I went to school on a seminar for that.
Wow.
But he did a fantastic job, and so we feel very comfortable we're ready to do it.
With all things considered, what do we say maybe, or approximately, if you can narrow it down, be when it's shovel ready?
Roughly about, we think we'll be able to break ground if everything goes well, somewhere around August to September. And it's about a 16-month construction project, so we're hoping that we can open sometime around December of 17 or January of 18.
Of 18.
Right.
That's still pretty
So it's
quick.
roughly about a 2-month, we've got about a 2-year process
Yeah.
we're looking at right
Wow.
now.
Well, considering the end result, that's pretty darn quick.
Yeah, we're
So-
very pleased with it. We've been working on, like I said, going through all of those things. And now the other thing I've been working on, and our staff's been working on, is how do we pay for it?
Wow.
And a minor consideration.
Minor detail, yeah.
But so we're working on that. We have been working on various sources of grants, loans, things like that. One of the groups that I give a shout out to is the Tri-County Electric Membership Corporation. There are some USDA monies available. It's 10-year loans at 0% interest.
Oh, that's pretty good.
And but they do them. USDA does them through the EMCs, and so they brought us together with Tri-County. The Tri-County board had to vote to approve them because technically the loans are to them and we're the sub-grantee to them.
I see.
So, but they could not have been nicer to work with. They have approved everything. We've worked on the grants for that and had to submit quite a bit of information on that. But we've done that. It's actually 2 separate loans of $1.3 million each. So this is 2.6 million of the project.
Wow.
And for 0% interest, we can fill out a lot of paperwork.
If it was any less, they'd have to be paying us
That's
to borrow
right.
their own money.
That's right.
Well,
So we're
that's
pleased
great.
with that. We've met with the county's financial advisors how we would wrap a 20-year loan around that 10-year loan. And so basically, and as you know, we're doing a fundraising campaign that'll go public pretty quickly. But they're in the silent phase right now with some of the bigger donors.
Is that public money?
No, that's private money.
Private money.
And we're hoping to raise roughly $2 million of private money on this.
Oh, that's good. That's excellent.
The 2% room occupancy tax that we're going to get through this agreement will generate enough money to handle at least the debt service on at least another $2 million. The county has already set aside over the last 2 years, after we underspent our budgets the last 2 years, $4 million. So we're already at about, if we get all of that, we're at about 8 to 10 million already. This will be, counting the architect and some furnishings and audio-visual stuff, roughly about an $18 million project.
Wow.
So Some of it will involve doing some long-term financing. There's no question about that. But we think we're going to get almost half of it should be taken care of on the front end.
Wow.
And if we can do
Wow,
that,
that's great.
that is a big accomplishment for a county our size.
It sure is.
So that's essentially the project in a nutshell. I can't emphasize enough, the Board of Commissioners has a very strong commitment to this project. They want to see it go. Otherwise, we would not have engaged the architect and be hiring the CMAR going along with this process now.
This facility will just bring us, I foresee a lot of revenue in this. But not only that, it'll bring the masses in from
That's right.
all around the southeast.
I agree, and the part of the project, as you probably know, is, and I left this out before, the 18-acre tract of land, the city's keeping 6 acres of that, and that's at the corner of Wayne Memorial Drive and New Hope Road.
Right.
Our plan is, and this was part of the agreement, that they would make every effort to recruit a hotel into there. They've already had interest. I don't think that's going to be a problem getting a hotel. I've talked to Scott about that. They feel very good about it. The only thing holding that up is no hotel is going to want to buy land and build until they see us award a contract, break ground, and they see some construction taking place. But again, if we do that August or September, they've got 16 months to put a hotel in there before we open.
Wow.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Scott's preliminary plans in there show enough room also where they can put another 2 restaurants in there.
Oh.
And the hotel should be a full-service hotel with a restaurant. So there's probably 3 restaurants in that area. I personally believe that that's going to be a big spur for commercial development along Wayne Memorial Drive, particularly with that new entrance coming in off the bypass. But also because this will be a magnet for commercial development.
Exactly.
When you couple this with, 2,000 students and also the faculty at Wayne Community College, you've got the hospital and their 1,000 or so employees, plus all of the medical office complex around it. I mean, you've got from a commercial developer standpoint, you've got a nucleus of potential customers that ought to drive future development in that area.
Well, this is really exciting, George.
Well, we are excited about it, and one of the things I think it's done is our relationship with the city has really been helped by this process, and I think we have a very good working relationship between the 2 boards and also between the 2 staffs. There's nothing that would come up that would involve the city and county that we don't feel comfortable getting a meeting with the mayor and or the city manager and working through the problem.
Wow. That is, I can't say, that's just fantastic news, and it just continues to get better all the time. So we're looking forward to August or September or sometime in that time frame for breaking ground, and then here we go.
That's right.
Fantastic. Our guest has been Wayne County Manager George Wood, and I appreciate you coming in and talking with us.
Glad to do it, Wayne.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.